Chapter 80 to 85. Groggily opening my eyes, I'm met with a bright light shining down on me, causing me to wince and shut my eyes. A little bit later, I open my eyes again, this time ready for the bright light. Once my eyes adjusted to the light, I look at my surroundings, trying to figure out where I am. I try moving my body, but my limbs are met with resistance. Looking at my arms, I notice several chains holding me down. I was confused because these chains had a pink glow all over them, meaning Nala created these chains. Laying back down, I try to remember what happened to me to cause Nala to chain me down with so many chains, and when I do I'm hit with a terrible headache, causing me to shut my eyes in pain. After several seconds of pain, it finally receded, allowing me to think again. When I decided just to wait for Nala to come and release me, I finally remembered about Mia, and when I did I was extremely angry. Sage-MIAA. Yelling out her name in sadness and anger, I felt my power start rising, but my sanity is also slowly decreasing. I start trying to break out of the chain. With every chain I broke, my anger continued to rise, and when I was on the last set of chains I heard a door open, and the sound of someone slithering. Turning around to the sound, the first thing I see is a very disheveled woman. It took me a second to realize it was Nala with how terrible she looked. Her hair, which was usually perfect pink, was all over the place, and I saw some white hair. She had bags under her eyes, making her look tired, and she had tear streaks right under her eyes, which just goes to show how much she has cried. When I saw her my anger somewhat died down, but my power didn't fall one bit. Trying my best to calm down, I burst through the last set of the chains binding me, and when I do the first thing on my mind is saving Mia. But before I could do anything, Nala jumps on me, wraps her lower body around me, hugging me, and starts trying to calm me down. Nala - calm down Sage, calm down. Everything will be alright, okay, everything will be alright. Listening to her sweet but calm words causes my anger to slowly recede, and several minutes later, I'm finally calm enough to initiate conversation again. Not bothering to take her off me, I ask her questions, trying my best to avoid the topic of Mia. Sage-IIVE calmed down, thanks Nala. So can you tell me what happened, for you to have chained me? Nala - you've been unconscious for about 3 days now, and it seems you don't remember much, do you? Sage - no. Nala - then I'll explain it to you. Something happened that made you really angry, and because of that you transformed into a Super Saiyan, as you Saiyans call it. Yours was different though, your transformation increased your power far higher than normal, but you lost your sanity as a side effect. While transformed you fought with Mira and managed to defeat him quite easily, but when we came close to you, you started attacking us. Luckily I made it back in time, before you killed anyone, because when I arrived you stopped attacking and just followed me. I made use of that and managed to make you follow me back into my lab. Once there I went into this small room and flooded it with the strongest sleeping gas I had, and while I had a gas mask you didn't, but it still took really long for you to fall asleep, but once you did I chained you up. I couldn't have you waking up and attacking anyone else again. When she first said, something happened, I knew she was talking about Mia but didn't specifically say her, probably trying not to worsen the already bad mood we have. Once she finished talking I was slightly surprised that I transformed into a legendary Super Saiyan, but when I think about it, it makes sense that I don't remember what happened. Sage-H have you tried the Dragon Balls for her? When I ask that question, Nala unwraps herself from me and looks straight at me, although when she does I can see tears start forming in her eyes, which doesn't give me a good feeling. Nala - I tried. I even tried the Namekian Dragon Balls, BB, but they said it was out of their P power. They couldn't even locate her soul. Once she finished talking, I could feel my anger start growing, making me want to dissect those two pathetic dragons, but before I did something, Nala grabbed my hand to calm me down and it worked. When I was calm again, I tried my best to remember anything from the Dragon Ball series that could possibly help me, and then it hit me, something that should be able to easily solve any problem to ever exist, something that could even restore destroyed universes. Sage-Super Dragon Balls. Yelling the word Super Dragon Balls most likely confused Nala, because I never mentioned them, mainly because I rarely needed Dragon Balls, let alone Super Dragon Balls. Nala - W what are Super Dragon Balls? Sage - I'll tell you later, but where are the Dragon Balls? Nala - since we summoned the Dragon Balls they are currently stone, even the Namekian Dragon Balls. I forget about that since I was too excited at remembering the Super Dragon Balls, but if both sets of Dragon Balls are stone, that means I would still have to wait at least 3 to 4 months to use them again, and that's if they didn't use a wish. But once again Dragon Balls for the win, even if this set of Dragon Balls is not friendly, they should still be able to grant my wish. Sage - I have an idea, come with me. When I finished talking, I wrapped my arm around Nala's waist and I hurriedly made my way through Nala's lab to the exit. Leaving her lab, I quickly fly to the lookout. Once we arrived I set Nala down, and flew right by Mr. Popo and Cammy, flying throughout the lookout. It takes me about 3 minutes of constant looking till I finally find what I'd been looking for. Sage - finally, the Black Star Dragon Balls. Walking forward, I checked to make sure all 7 of them are here, and they are. Since I didn't know if the Black Star Dragon Balls had a password to summon them, I just said the normal words. Sage - rise Shinran and grant my wish. When I finished speaking, smoke started emerging from the Dragon Balls as they started forming what was an exact copy of Shinran except for being red instead of green. Once he was fully formed, I had to go outside of the lookout to be able to fully see him. When I arrived outside, I could see a panicking Cammy, Mr. Popo, and a confused Nala. Cammy - what have you done? No, how did you even know of their existence in the first place? I have only told Mr. Popo, so how did you find out? I could hear Cammy yelling at me in panicking voice, but I ignored him and walked to the edge of the lookout to come face to face with red-colored Shinran. Ultimate Shinran dash say thee wish and I shall grant. Before I told my wish, I turned to my side and looked at Nala who is now standing beside me, reaching down, I grab her hands and hold them, when I do she turns her head and looks at me. Sage dash as I said before I have a plan, but for this plan to work, I'm going to need to have leave for a while, okay? But when I return, I'll have reunited our family okay, so you got to trust me alright? Once I finished talking, I could see her give off a painful smile, before she answered back. Nala dash it'll hurt to not have you with me right now, but if it can make our family whole again, then I don't mind even if it takes a couple of thousand years, besides I've always trusted you haven't I? Smiling at her response, I give her a deep kiss and only release her lips when she was on the verge of suffocation. Looking back at the dragon, I make sure to ask about Mia before I start the journey involving the gods. Sage dash I wish for my daughter Mia to be resurrected. Ultimate Shinran dash that is out of my power, ask another wish. Sage tisk, I figured that would happen, if even the Namekian Dragon Balls didn't know where Mia was, but I just had to try. Sage dash I wish to be transported into the timeline of the Super Saiyan god named Kakarot. Once I said that, his eyes glow, and then he speaks. Ultimate Shinran dash your wish has been granted. When he finished talking, I could feel my body suddenly get sucked up into some wormhole. Looking back I gave Nala one last smile before I completely disappeared. Sage ha, as much as I shouldn't be feeling excited, my blood is boiling at the prospect of fighting new and stronger enemies, but first I must gather the Super Dragon Balls before I go and enjoy myself. My daughter comes first. Somewhere above Earth just outside its atmosphere, what looks like a wormhole in space appears, and right when it appeared a little girl with pink fur and a tail emerges from it. Getting a better look you would be able to tell that the little girl is currently heavily injured, she has deep gashes all over her body, with some even exposing her bones, and her fur seems to have been burned off in many different places. Even though the little girl is gravely injured, she is still alive, but barely. While the unconscious little girl floated in space, she was slowly getting pulled by Earth's gravity, and eventually, she entered its atmosphere. When she did her body got caught on fire like a meteorite, but even with her terrible condition, the fire couldn't harm her whatsoever. She continues falling to Earth for several minutes until she finally hits the ground in a forest, causing severe damage to anything in the vicinity and creating a vast crater. Underscore. Granny ha, I really miss you guys. Maybe I should just end it, so we can finally reunite? While I was sulking in depression over my dead family and contemplating whether to just end my life, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shooting star, and since it was dark outside it shined bright. Looking at it I decided to act childish for once and wish for something I knew was impossible, but something I would do anything for. Granny dash I wish I could have my family back. Opening my eyes after saying my wish, I mockingly laughed at my stupidity while I could feel tears threatening to slide down my face. Wiping my eyes with a handkerchief, I gaze back onto the shooting star. But when I do I notice that it seems far brighter than before and that it looks bigger as well. Thinking that my old age might be catching up for me to be imagining things, I carefully watch the shooting star. While I do, I can see it getting larger and at an increasingly fast pace. Panicking, I stand up and go inside my log cabin, to try and call the police or someone who would know what to do in this situation, but when I pick up the phone, I suddenly hear a giant explosion along with a violent quaking that causes my entire cabin to shake, almost making me lose my footing. Granny-W was that a meteor? Who knows, it could have been anything in this world. We have people who can fly, run faster than the speed of sound, and even people who can destroy buildings easily. I need to stop thinking like a normal person. Life isn't like when I was young anymore. With the phone still held in my hand, I look out my window into the area where I think the meteor or something else crashed, and between my phone, before I set the phone down and decide to explore it myself. Granny, what could go wrong? Even if I do die, it won't be so bad. I'll finally be able to see my husband and kids again. Walking to the storage room, I grab a lantern and put on some shoes before I leave my cabin and walk in the direction where the object crashed at. It took about 15 minutes of walking before I managed to get close enough to see the large crater. Looking around at the destroyed part of the forest and pieces of the ground on fire still, I slowly made my down the crater, making sure not to fall and hurt myself. Granny, well, that could have been worse, but I hope it's not too difficult to climb back out. Once I made it to the bottom of the crater, I looked around for about a minute before spotting nothing, not even a rock. Thinking that whatever crashed might have been covered in the dirt or sand, I reach down and start moving the dirt around trying to find anything. After about 5 minutes of searching and dirtying my hands, I suddenly felt something soft but as hard as a rock. Somewhat excited that I found something, I start scooping away the dirt with my hands, and once I removed enough dirt, I finally laid eyes on what had crashed down. Granny, is that a little girl? Shocked at the face of the little girl, covered in dirt, I quickly start removing the dirt around the girl. When I do I'm met with injuries all over her body, and the more dirt I remove the more injuries I see. After 10 minutes I finally managed to remove all the dirt, allowing me to get a full view of her, and while I was shocked to figure out she was most likely not human because no human could survive those types of injuries, let alone crashing into Earth at supersonic speed. Granny, looking at those injuries, she most likely didn't receive them from crashing into the ground. They're not fresh, but to still be alive after all that happened to her is shocking. Standing up, I try picking up the little girl, but when I do, I can barely lift some of her body, dropping her back on the ground. I try brainstorming what I can do to pick her up. Granny, my truck. Usually I wouldn't be able to drive my truck in such a dense forest, but with the crash, I can probably squeeze it through. Quickly walking back to my home, I get in my truck and drive to the crash site, which didn't take too long, but I did hit a few branches, stopping the truck right beside the crater. I turn it around and get out. Walking to the trunk, I open it, revealing a built-in winch and a sled that I quickly threw in there. Taking the sled out of the trunk, I carefully walk down the crater and set the sled right next to the girl. Taking about 2 minutes to pull her onto the sled, I walk back up to the truck and grab the winch and some rope I luckily had laying in the trunk. Tying the rope around the sled and the girl so she doesn't fall off, I attach the winch to the sled, making sure it's on there tight. I make my way back up to the truck and activate the winch. When I do, it starts pulling the cable in. After about 2 minutes, the girl has finally made it out of the crater, and I had to help in the last part so she could get in the back of the truck. Closing the hatch, I get in the truck and drive back home, driving slowly to not worsen her wounds. Once I made it back, I parked the truck in the garage, went inside, and grabbed my old gurney that I used when I was a doctor. Taking it to the garage, I untie the rope around the girl and try my best to not aggravate her injuries while transferring her onto the gurney. Once she's on it, I wheel her to my office, which I haven't opened since my family left this world. When we arrived inside, I did everything like I used to do on an injured patient. Although when I tried to use a sewing needle on her to close her wounds shut, the needle wouldn't pierce her skin. Even when I used my full force, nothing happened. So I gave up and tried to tape her injuries close. The tape didn't work well, but it was the best I could come up with right now. Once I finished treating her, sunlight shone through the window. Granny dashed to think I was up all night. I'm too old for this. Looking at the little girl all cleaned and bandaged up, I take off my clothes, mask, and gloves, leave the office, and head to my room to sleep. Opening my eyes with difficulty, I look around, and when I notice everything is not what I'm used to, I try to get up, but the moment I do, I'm hit with a wave of pain coming from all over my body. Ugh hi. Ceasing my actions, I continue laying down, and as I do, memories of what happened before I blacked out played out in my mind. Calming down, I try sensing for my father's, mother's, or anyone's key I'm familiar with, but even after 2 minutes of non-stop searching, I didn't find anything that could help me, but I did sense some weak key close by, and they're heading in my direction. When I hear a door open, I fight through the pain and turn my head in the direction where the sound came from, and in doing so I'm met with what looks like an old human woman. At least with how weak she is, she won't be able to harm me. She walks in my direction, and only when she is standing atop of me, does she finally realize that I'm awake. Granny oh dear, you're awake. That's good. Can't possibly let a little girl die on my watch. Anyways, it's nice to meet you, little girl. You can call me Granny if you would like. So what's your name? Where am I, Granny? Granny we're in my log cabin, and my log cabin's in the forest away from any civilization. I meant which planet am I on, and how far away is Earth? Granny well, you're currently on Earth. TCH, don't lie, I can't sense my father's key, so we're definitely not on Earth. Granny well, little girl, I don't know what to tell you, we're on Earth, so believe me if you want. Anyways, I need to check your body and see how your injuries are doing. You've been unconscious for a week and haven't had any source of nutrients. When she finished talking, she put some gloves on and started feeling all over my body, which I didn't like one bit, but I haven't healed enough to be able to stop her actions, so I reluctantly let her continue. Granny I must say your body must be incredible to be able to survive so many injuries and still be alive. You seem to be healing faster than humans, but not by much, so it'll still take a long time for you to be fully healed. Don't compare me to you humans. All I need is some food and I'll be fully healed within a few days. Granny well, I don't know if your claim is true, but you should start eating anyways now that you're awake. I'll go get some food for you, so just wait a couple of minutes. After she said that, she left the room and returned a couple of minutes later, but this time she had some food with her. Sitting down next to me, she tried feeding me the food, but my pride as a Saiyan wouldn't allow me to do something like that. Granny oh my, is that your father, little girl? When she said that, I completely forgot about the situation I was in and turned my head back in her direction with my mouth wide open, but when I did, I was too focused on looking for my father that I didn't even notice the spoon aiming for my mouth until it already entered. Once I realized what happened, I knew she must have tricked me. I was angry and wanted to spit out the food, but it tasted great, especially when I'm hungry. Granny you ate the food, so stop being defiant and just eat the food I'm giving you. As much as I wanted to deny her, the moment I swallowed her food, my hunger exploded, making it hard for me to not want to eat. After a while, my hunger finally managed to overcome my pride, and I opened my mouth for more. When Granny saw me open my mouth, she smiled before she started spoon feeding me. I was embarrassed that I, a Saiyan, was having someone feed me food, but it just tasted so good. Once I no longer felt a spoon entering my mouth, I opened my eyes and looked at the woman before asking for more food. Is that all the food? Granny haha, dear, that was enough food to fill a grown man up and you're still asking for food? TSK, I told you not to compare me, a Saiyan, to you humans. If I wanted I could eat more than 10x that amount. Granny so your species is called Saions? That's an interesting name, but alright, if you can still eat more I'll go gather some more food then. After that, she took the plate with her and left, only returning about 15 minutes later, but this time with several more plates than last time. Seeing all that food caused my stomach to rumble and it let out a growl, loud enough that even Granny heard it. Granny dash oh my, it seems you really can eat a lot more, good thing I brought extra. Sitting down she started feeding me spoon after spoon of food. It continued till all the food she brought with her was empty, and only then did I feel satisfied, although she looked quite worried. Granny, even if I'm a retired doctor, with the way she eats I'll go broke within a year. Granny dash asterisk cough asterisk now that everything else is out of the way, you mind telling me a little bit about yourself? Mia dash fine, my name's Mia and I'm a Saiyan, the most powerful race in all of the universe. My father is a Saiyan as well and he is the most powerful being to ever exist. Granny dash so your name's Mia, and apparently, the Saiyan race is the strongest in the universe, and your father is the strongest Saiyan of them all. Is that correct? When I heard her repeat what I just said, I was going to agree with her, but my words got stuck in my throat when I remembered the scene of when my father got sent flying by that blue man's attack, even when his power was at its highest. While I was lost in thought, I heard Granny calling me which snapped me out, and I replied to her, but not as confident as before. Mia dash why yes. Trying to calm down, I asked Granny some questions hoping to get some information out of her. Mia dash now it's my turn to ask questions, which planet is this? Granny dash I already told you Mia, we are on planet Earth, in the solar system, which is inside the Milky Way galaxy. Thinking it wouldn't make sense for her to try to heal me, feed me, and then only lie to me, it wouldn't make sense, so I just decide to go with it, and ask something more specific. Mia dash if we're on Earth can you tell me where the Capsule Corp is? Granny dash what is Capsule Corp, is it a company of some sort? Mia dash if this is really Earth, then how can a human not even know about the richest company on Earth? Granny dash I don't know of any Capsule Corporation, but I do know of Wayne Enterprises, LexCorp, and Palmer Technologies. They should be a couple of the biggest companies in the United States. Hearing her talk about several different companies that I've never heard about really makes me suspicious that this isn't Earth. To be fair, even if those companies were on Earth it's not like I would care about them, I only care about Capsule Corporation because my mom's friend is the owner of the company. Mia maybe this planet just happens to have the same name as Earth and also has humans living on it, it's possible I guess. Mother said if something happened once then it could happen again, and since there already exists an Earth, there could be another one. Mia dash whatever, anyways I'm tired, so I'm going to go to sleep, don't try to attack me, I'm extremely powerful compared to you humans. After giving her a warning, I turned my head away from her and closed my eyes, trying to go to sleep, although it didn't sound like she took my warning seriously. Granny dash haha, you are still recovering so you should indeed get plenty of rest, and besides I wouldn't ever harm a child, even if you're not human. When she finished talking, I heard her stand up and walk to the exit before closing the door and turning off the lights, leaving me alone in the dark, but I would still be capable of seeing perfectly fine even in this darkness. Drifting off to dreamland, I start thinking about what my parents are doing, although knowing them, they're probably trying to find me. My mother is a really overprotective parent. Mia I hope father managed to beat that blue man. Humph, are you doubting your father Mia? Of course he beat him, no one can defeat father. Underscore underscore underscore. Underscore underscore underscore. It's been 4 days since I first gained consciousness, and right now I'm stretching while checking my body to make sure I'm fully healed, and from the looks of it I've fully healed, but more importantly, my power has grown tremendously ever since I've healed. Sitting across from me is Granny that has taken care of me since I awoke, although I've always looked down on how weak humans are, it's true she did help me in healing, plus father always said that as Saiyans we should always repay a debt that we owe. Granny dash T to think you've really healed from such deadly injuries in a matter of days, and all you needed was food, this is unbelievable. Mia dash humph, not only did I heal entirely, but I've also gotten incredibly more powerful than before, that's why we Saiyans are amazing. Smiling with pride, I stop checking my body and face Granny, looking at her I can see the amount of shock on her face, which inflates my already big ego. Granny dash so, now that you're fully healed, what are you going to do Mia? Mia dash I'm going to find my parents, as with how overprotective they are I'm sure they are worried about me, but before that, I must return the favor I owe you, so what must I do? When I finished talking, she looked a little surprised, and it took a second for her to reply back. Granny dash there is no need for that Mia, I didn't help you so you could repay me, I did it cause I couldn't just not help a little girl who needs help. Mia dash TSK, it doesn't matter, as a Saiyan I must repay any debt I owe to someone, so I won't be leaving until I no longer owe you a debt. After I said that, it went silent as we continued staring at each other, neither of us willing to give in to each other's demands. Only after 3 minutes of constant staring did Granny finally release a sigh before she agreed. Granny dash ha, fine you win. If you don't want to feel like you owe me anything, next time you see a person in need could you help them? When I heard her request I was disappointed, I wanted to fight someone or kill someone, I might have even been able to destroy a planet if I was lucky, but instead I had to help someone in need, lame. Mia out of everything she could have said, she said that? But I'm not too surprised, after interacting with her for a couple of days, I've come to learn she is quite the nice human. Mia dash TCH, fine, I'll help someone, but I'm only helping one person okay. Granny dash haha, that's fine, as long as you can help someone that's all that matters. Mia dash anyways, I will be staying here for a few more days so I can control my strength again, so don't bother me while I'm meditating, it could be dangerous. After informing her, I started floating in midair with my legs crossed over each other and started meditating. When I did, my ability to sense ki outside was greatly reduced and I could only sense grannies and some animals close by in the forest. Underscore. I didn't know exactly how long I've been meditating, but I'm sure it's been about a day since I finally managed to get control over my new power. Since I've gained control over my strength, I stopped meditating and left the room for the first time to go see Granny. Underscore. In the forest close to the log cabin where Mia and Granny are staying, there is a group of people currently walking in the direction of their cabin. They are all wearing costumes as if they were just at a convention, or maybe they are heroes looking for crime and trying to save the day, who knows? Kid Flash dash, are you sure this is the correct way? Robin dash, do you have a better idea? Kid Flash dash, geez, man, I was just asking, no need to get angry. Robin dash, maybe I wouldn't get angry if my teammate wasn't so stupid. Miss Martian dash, can you two stop acting like little kids, we're currently on a mission. Artemis dash, yeah, you guys can't go 2 minutes without arguing, can you? Superboy dash SHH, I hear talking up ahead. Zatanna dash, how far ahead? Superboy dash, about 100 meters I'd say. Rocket dash, finally some action, all this walking was getting boring. Aqualad dash, everyone, get quiet and follow me, we might have found something. When he said that, everyone in the group went quiet and followed his orders like he was the leader. After following his commands, it didn't take long before they arrived at the cabin. Once there, they continued hiding on the edge of the forest to stay out of eyesight. The leader, or Aqualad I should say, ordered Miss Martian to investigate the cabin. Aqualad dash, Miss Martian, try to see what's going on in there, but be careful, the amount of energy this device is sensing from the cabin is several times higher than the energy sensed at the crater. When he gave the order, Miss Martian nodded before she closed her eyes. Not even a minute later she opened her eyes in shock and then coughed out blood, which shocked everyone. Superboy dash Megan. Megan, you okay, what happened? Megan slash Miss Martian dash monster, a monster. Aqualad dash, everyone get ready to fight, we've most likely had our cover blown. When he said that, everyone left the forest area and entered the vicinity of the log cabin to have a better fighting terrain, while Superboy stayed in the forest to take care of Megan. Although the moment the group stepped out of the forest they heard the voice of a little girl that sounded very angry. Mia dash, who's the bitch that was reading my mind? While I was sitting at the table across from Granny, eating some more of her delicious food, I sensed a group of ki approaching the cabin. Even though the strongest ki in that group is more than 2x as high as the second strongest, they were far too weak to be of any interest to me, so I ignored them. Just after I finished eating all the food, I felt an invasive presence inside my mind. At first I was confused about what was happening, but when I noticed how the presence had the same key signature as one of the keys I sensed earlier, I realized what happened. Mia, how dare these bastards try to read my mind, I'll show them. Quickly sitting down on the floor, I enter my consciousness, or my mindscape as father calls it. It's where I do image training, and when I enter my mindscape I'm supposed to be the only presence there. But this time I saw a disgusting looking white creature and, I saw it looking through my memories, and only after I made my presence known, did that vile creature notice my presence. Mia dash, the hell you doing looking through my memories, ugly creature? When it finally noticed me, its expression changed, but since it was so hideous, I couldn't even tell what type of expression it was showing, but what I did sense was when it tried attacking me, using my ki, I blocked her attack and put on a savage grin. Megan dash, I am sorry, I attacked on reflex, I didn't mean it. Mia dash, ha ha ha, first you invade my mind, then you attack me, and now you try apologizing, this is hilarious. I'm going to make sure you regret this. After saying that, I let loose a little bit of my ki in my mindscape and let it attack the creature, who I assume is a female from the sound of her voice, but I only managed to attack her once before she disappeared from my mindscape. Mia dash tch, that bitch managed to escape, that's fine, I'd much rather fight using my body rather than my mind anyways. Opening my eyes, I lock onto the group of key signatures and noticed the same one that was just inside my mind, had far weaker ki than before. Smirking, I flash out of the cabin, but not before I inform Granny. Mia dash, I'm going to the crater where I crashed. Granny dash, be careful Mia, there are dangerous animals in the forest. Looking at the group of weak humans, made the smirk I previously had upgrade to a smile of savageness. Mia, these stupid, weak humans thought they could attack me, hee I'll show them. Mia dash, who's the bitch that tried reading my mind? When I said that, everyone except the two other people still hiding in the forest, stared at me while all in battle positions, although some of them didn't seem to take me seriously. Kid Flash dash, this little girl is the one that injured Miss Martian? Rocket dash, maybe she has powerful psychic abilities? Looking at the two humans who seemed to underestimate me, one of them was wearing a bright yellow suit with red pants and had a red lightning bolt symbol on the chest, the other one was a dark-skinned woman wearing only black clothes. I guess she looks cool though. Raising my hand I point it to the side of them and create a key sphere. When I do they all get on guard, ready to attack. No longer teasing them, I unleashed the attack and when I did it turned into a key wave. Everything the attack went through it disintegrated, stopping my attack. I watch in the distance as it completely destroys a mountain and causes a huge shockwave. Looking back at the group of humans, I see their faces seem to be filled with fear, as they looked back at me after watching the devastation I caused. Kid Flash WW what just happened? Zatanna I think she just destroyed a mountain, and she seemed to do it rather easily. Robin any ideas Aqualad? Aqualad let's try to avoid a fight, if we can't, well I prefer not to find out. Watching these weaklings get scared from such a weak attack, kinda dampened the mood for me a little, but I guess I shouldn't expect much from humans, to begin with. Mia TCH, you guys boring to get scared from such a weak attack, anyways give me the disgusting creature that tried invading my mind, or I'll take her anyways. After I said that, they started whispering among themselves, but I could still hear them, so it made no difference to me. Zatanna Megan is the only one who entered her mind, so is she talking about her? Robin Megan is kinda cute so I wouldn't call her disgusting, but she is indeed the only one among us who has the ability to enter someone's mind. Aqualad she must be talking about Miss Martian, it seems a fight is unavoidable then. Superboy, signal the Justice League, and ask for reinforcements. Alright everyone it seems a fight is unavoidable, so get ready to attack on my count. When they finished talking they all eyed me with seriousness and got into fighting positions. About a second later, the one who sounded like the leader, charged at me as whips of water formed in his hands. He wasn't the only one who attacked me, as everyone immediately followed right behind him. The first one to arrive near me wasn't the leader but was actually the human who underestimated me first. What was weird was the moment he started moving, I sensed he was using energy that wasn't even his, which made me look down on humans even more. Following his movements, I saw him quickly arrive next to me and tried to grab me, but I just turned my head to him, and when I did he got flustered. I used that chance to punch him in the stomach, knocking him unconscious. Having not even needed half a second to take down one of them, I focus back on the others, and I watch as they charge at me really slowly. Walking forward I grab the arrows in the air and throw them back to where they came from. Stopping right in front of the leader, I watch as his face shows shock before trying to reposition himself to attack me, but I reach forward and grab the water whips, pulling him closer to me. I headbutt him, and when I do I hear a crunch sound before the guy flops on the ground. Hearing a scream, I look over to find the woman with the bow is currently lying on the ground with a couple of her arrows going through her body. Ignoring her, I continue walking forward, when suddenly I'm encased in a dome. Rocket I got her. Smirking, I raise my hand and shoot a weak ki blast in her direction. The moment my attack touches the dome, it shatters, and when the ki attack hits the woman, she gets flung to a tree with burns all over her. She's alive, but unconscious. Continuing with my walk, I suddenly felt like my body was being restrained by an invisible force. Sensing the source of the attack, my eyes landed on a woman floating while doing a whole bunch of weird movements with her hands. While I was looking at her, I felt something hit my back. Turning around I saw someone else attacking me with a metal stick. I kicked him in the face, sending him somewhere in the forest while hitting several trees. Might have died. Looking back at the women, I write some words in midair and when I finished they glowed dark pink for a second before they flew over and landed on the woman. When they did she immediately collapsed. Finally reaching the area where I sensed the women's ki, I saw what looked like a green female human and she was currently in the arms of some other human. Mia so this is the form you take on when interacting with humans. You kinda remind me of Piccolo.
If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaishin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my Patreon. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Nicholas Berenger, Ben Phillips, Yamatancho, Taco TSK, Yuki, Search 1301. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.